Thanks, Dan. All right, welcome to our Monday morning briefing, July 20th. We're all in our designated Zoom spots. We will go, let's see, I'll go around I'll just announce who is on. We have Tim Whitehead, Mike Dorcy. Good morning. Frank Pinter, Commissioner Schutte, Commissioner Netherland, and Loretta. So Frank, let's go with the prosecuting attorneys first for your briefing.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
We can, yes, thank you.
Yeah, so I just real quick, I think that there's lots going on, but we were asked to briefly brief the commission regarding specific issues with the OPMA. I think the primary issue was with respect to the legal requirements for an executive session, which I know that Chief DPA Whitehead is prepared to talk more specifically about. Also, although I guess I wanted, since we're talking about the OPMA, to recognize that there are still and continue to be changing targets with respect to the rules that we all live under in terms of how and when we can meet. It's my understanding that from July 7th and on to at least August 1st, if that doesn't change, it was and is discretionary with the counties whether or not to find a way, if the facility is allowed to safely do so, to resume in-person meetings, but allow the discretion to continue to meet remotely as we're doing right now. And that it was this board's decision based on our facilities to continue to do that. With the rollback of requirements from 50 to 10, there's an ongoing debate about whether or not that applies to the OPMA, but the current consensus seems to suggest that it probably does. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that. But I don't want to take up too much time because I know that we have a limited amount of time, and I know that Mr. Whitehead has some information that the commission specifically asked for with respect to when and how to enter into executive session.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. And good morning, commissioners, and Loretta and Jen and whoever else is watching this fine Monday morning. It looks like summer has finally arrived. Hope everybody had a good weekend. So yeah, let's just get right into it. I know we don't have much time. It looks like we have about 10 more minutes, so we want to be cognizant of the time frame. So the OPMA, as we know, is entitled 4230. And specifically, we were requested, or it was requested of us, to discuss executive sessions and the proper way of going into an executive session and holding executive sessions. So 423110 discusses executive sessions, and the Board of County Commissioners can hold these executive sessions during any regular or special meeting. So what's a regular meeting? It's defined as a meeting that is held according to a schedule adopted by an ordinance or resolution. And Mason County has done that specifically in Mason County Code Ordinance 09-13, which has later been codified in the Mason County Code, which is 2.88010. Mason County has determined the regular meeting schedule, and basically it is any day, any time on Monday through Wednesday, 8 to 5 on Mondays and Wednesdays, and 9 to 5 generally on Tuesdays. So what's a special meeting? A special meeting basically is anything that isn't a regular meeting. So with that in mind, you can have an executive session that is part of a regular meeting or a special meeting. And a special meeting, let's go back. So if it's part of a regular meeting or a special meeting, then an executive session then is going to be closed to the public, because for certain circumstances, the legislature has determined that certain things just if they're discussed in public may have adverse consequences to the county or the city or whatever government agencies involved. So it lists a number of topics that counties or cities can go into executive session. specifically under, and that's 4230.110. And there are some procedural requirements that the county, I'm just saying the county because that's us, need to follow prior to going into executive session. And the first is that there needs to be a public announcement of the purpose for excluding the public. So that needs to be noted, and it needs to have, let's see, the announced purpose of the executive session must be one of the statutorily identified purposes for which an executive session may be held. The announcement must contain enough detail to identify the purpose as falling within one of those identified in RCW 4230.110 subsection 1. So the questions I think recently that have come up deal specifically with executive sessions as they relate to litigation or potential litigation. And the county does a good job in their notice requirements when we have an executive session that's related to litigation or potential litigation to notify the public of the executive session by identifying the specific statutory requirement and statute that we're going into executive session under when it is potential or actual litigation. And that's 4230.110 subsection 1 subsection I. And the county goes further and usually identifies whether it is litigation or whether it is potential litigation. Another procedural requirement that the county has to follow and does follow is that at the time the county is going into executive session, there must be an announcement made about the time frame in which they expect the executive session to last. And if it goes over that time, there needs to be another announcement to the public about the extension of the executive session. And I believe the county does a good job of making that announcement prior to going into executive session. Another couple requirements related to executive sessions and how they relate to potential litigation. The statute requires that the attorney, which is usually the prosecuting attorney or a representative of Mr. Dorcy, myself, I'm included in a lot of the executive sessions, have to be present during the executive session for potential or actual litigation, or in certain circumstances, a special legal counsel that the county has a contractual relationship to handle certain issues or certain matters that for whatever reason the prosecuting attorney isn't handling for the county or is handling in conjunction with the prosecuting attorney's office. So once all of those procedural requirements have happened, the county can go into executive session. No final action can be taken in executive session. So final action is to be taken in an open meeting. So if there's a settlement agreement or something like that that is going to be reviewed, that's always done in the open public meeting, which is usually on a Tuesday at 9, or I believe, what is it, the fourth Tuesday at 6, if I remember right.
Yep.
But certainly action can be taken in executive session. Action is very broad, and it includes basic things like deliberations and discussions. So it's clear that, and it would be strange to say that action could not be taken in executive session because the legislature has clearly determined that you can go in and discuss these things. So that's generally the overview. I think Mason County is doing a good job of following the law. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take that. I know we've only got a few more minutes, and I wanted to do a quick rundown, and I do appreciate the questions that were posed to the commissioners, because it's always a good idea to have these academic type questions answered, and to just review the OPMA, because I know all of you are very concerned about being transparent, and we want to do the right thing. So if you have any questions, let's hear them.
Well, I just wanted to add real quick, if I could, and you may have said it, Tim, I apologize, but one of the confusions may be, so we have our Tuesday meeting. That's where the commission can take and does take final action. The briefing meetings on Monday, Tuesday after the regular meeting, and Wednesdays are still meetings, and you can always recess into an executive session during a meeting. Subject to, obviously, you can never take final action, like Tim said, in the executive session. But you can also call a meeting for the sole purpose of entering into an executive session.
That's exactly right. Whether it's part of a regular meeting or whether it's part of a special meeting, and the special meetings have their own special notice requirements, which generally is 24 hours notice. So yeah, Mr. Dorcy, you're exactly right.
Great. I appreciate you clarifying, because I think a lot of us have questions, especially during this time when there's so much going on. So I appreciate you coming and clarifying, helping us solve some questions.
Yeah, it's important. There are a lot of questions, and the landscape changes every day. You come into new proclamations, new interpretations of proclamations that have changed. I know the Attorney General has changed their reading of proclamations numerous times throughout this pandemic. So
right.
it's important. It's important to do these things.
Right. That's another thing I appreciate about you guys is you're always reaching out to the Attorney General's office to get clarification, because like you did say, it feels like sometimes things are changing every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it's a verbal change. And so then we still have to wait for the written proclamation from the governor's office or from other offices. So we appreciate you guys staying up on things.
And then lawyers get involved and screw everything up.
All right. Do we have any questions from anyone else?
No, really good job, Tim, in explaining through everything there. I think it'd be helpful not only for us always to have a good refresher, but also for our constituents and viewers at home who are also always eagerly watching the deliberative process that we go through and making sure that we adhere to the law. So appreciate your counsel on this.
Yeah, and that's important. Like I said earlier, the questions that come about are all very good questions, and we appreciate the folks out there asking the questions, because it's not always straightforward, and people have good questions, and we're more than happy to sit down and talk to anybody that has questions about it.
Great. Commissioner Netherland, do you have any questions?
Oh, good job. You explained it perfectly. I appreciate all your time and effort on this.
Yeah. Well, great. I know you guys have a busy day, and if there's not anything else, then we can get on to the rest of our day.
And you guys have busy days as well.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, let's go ahead and move on into our support services briefing. I'll go around our Zoom room again, and I'll announce who I see on the screen. So I see Commissioner Netherland, Commissioner Schutte, Frank Pinter, Jennifer Byerly, Russ McDowell, and Loretta Swanson. All right, Frank, take her away.
Thank you, Commissioners. On our agenda for today, we have a discussion point in regards to meeting schedules, and Diane will speak to that for a moment.
So what I'm proposing is, with the restrictions now on the Open Public Meetings Act due to COVID, because effective today we are back down to 10 people in a gathering and to meet the social distancing, and to make sure we have adequate staff for the meetings, I'm asking the commissioners reduce your meeting schedule down to basically 2 Tuesday meetings a month and then 2 Monday briefings. Of course, our county code will still be where you can meet on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but just so we have some kind of a schedule, and I included that in the packet. So this week is only briefing I'm proposing, and then next week would be a regular meeting, and it would be in the morning, not in the evening. And I've proposed a schedule through September. So I'm asking if that's good with the board, and then I can post it on the website and then just schedule accordingly.
It looks good to me, and I know that we're trying to follow the governor's guidelines, keeping things just routine and necessary. And I think they emphasize necessary more than routine. So, commissioners, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Yeah, I have no questions either. it's a shame that this what comes down to. It's actually harder on us to not actually be there and have things in our hands. But at the same time, with everything that's going on, and including in our own office, different issues, I can't see doing anything different than this for the moment. Hopefully we all get released again soon and we get to open up to the public, but until then, we'll do the best that we can.
I'll also just add to that, whether we're in a meeting or not in a meeting, our constituents always have the ability to contact us directly with issues that they have, concerns, comments. They have an opportunity to review the information that's going to be in front of us, whether it's at a briefing or at a regular meeting. And I just encourage them to continue to do that, to reach out to us and have those conversations with us regarding their thoughts and ideas and concerns on those issues. But less meetings doesn't mean less opportunity for the public to engage in the decision-making process.
And we're still working, doing all kinds of things. It's not like it ends for us. It's just those meetings.
No, and I look forward to the day when everything is back to normal. I know that small counties also have a difficult time meeting the qualifications or the restrictions that the governor has as far as opening everything up to the public. And so I know all of us are looking forward to that day when we can allow our people back in. Thanks, Diane.
Coverage for our clerk of the board position, which is now vacant. And I'm asking for permission if I can pay Jennifer Giraldes out of class pay so she can help cover some of the duties from clerk of the board. And if I could hire extra help as necessary, just so we have coverage in the office and the switchboard. And any of this extra would be covered within our existing budget.
I support that 100%.
I'm the supportive as well, but just ask that you keep us apprised of when you would need to tap into the extra help, just sort of so we have an understanding of costs on that, and so we know who's going to be in the office and when and that kind of thing.
Okay.
And just to clarify for myself what you said, you did say that you'll be able to handle this within budget?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. Then we'll move on to June financials. Jennifer?
Thank you, Frank. Good morning, commissioners.
Morning.
So starting out on page 2 of the June financials, we are at, in current expense, 49% of our budgeted revenues. We've taken in $18,885,000 compared to last year. We had taken in $19,543,000. So we are just a little bit under, about $660,000 under last year's revenue. So stop me if you have any questions along the way that I can answer.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, on those, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead there because we're just doing the revenue. The indirect payments, that's 286 is going to end up as a wash at the end of the year, no matter what, right?
Yes, I believe most of the indirect payments are known costs. So yes, that.
Okay. So that basically brings us down to 400, little around 400,000 plus there. Now the treasurer's behind by almost $1 million. Has she given us any reasons? I can assume what the reasons are, but has she given any direct reasons, or is it by chance timing?
So I have not talked to the treasurer recently about the differences, but actually we can go into that right now. Looking at pages 3 and 4, the $1 million is really an accumulation of differences. It's not really any one large item. The largest item is the reason that we're under would be the rents and leases for DNR Trust. Trust 1. We're under last year by 320,000. And then the other things that we're behind on are really, I mean, the property tax is only 84,000 less than last year. For sales tax, we're actually above where we were last year by 129,000. We are under the city county assistance, we're under by 70,000. The liquor control board profits under by 55,000. The in lieu of city of Tacoma, we're under by 67,000. The penalty on real and personal property, we're under by 45,000. And then the interest and other earnings, we're under by 96,000. So that is the largest item besides the DNR Timber Trust that we are under. So the other items, there's rents and leases for DNR Other Trust, 81,000, and that's a portion of the road diversion. So that's the portion that's collected there. And then the interest on delinquent property taxes under by 52,000. So the accumulation of those items are the main contributors to that $1 million.
So that DNR one, those expected, that's a timing one?
So that I don't know. I'll follow up with Lisa and see if she has any information on that. And Frank, you might have information on that right now. I'm not sure. Okay. No, thank you.
Timing, but I don't know for a fact.
Okay.
Okay, so safely we can say right now the impact at this point, if we do away with the indirect, and even with that one, is only in the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything really to be too concerned about at this point. I'll double check with the treasurer, and if there's anything else that she can contribute, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments on those things before we move on? Okay. So moving on to page 5 on the current expense expenditures, we are currently at 46% of our budgeted expenditures. Last year we were at 45. The benchmark through June is 50%, of course. And the total expenditures are $17,645,000. Last year we're $16,400,000. So we're over last year by about 1.24 million. Everybody looks to be pretty on target. Emergency management is just over, I believe, because of some payments that are due at the beginning of the year. You know, it's not a 12th perfectly every month. So they have some larger items that come up the beginning of the year. Everybody else looks to be pretty on track. Any questions on that?
Jen, none of this takes into account these care monies that we have not brought in, right?
That is correct.
So we're still expecting those to come in, and that should offset some of this because those expenditures are still in here, though.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. Yes.
Thank you.
And we also have some other grants that we have been using, that EMPG and Homeland Security, that I'm finishing up. They're done as of August 31st, and I'll be sending in for reimbursements on those.
Okay, so those are those are not in our budget though, so those will be an addition of revenue into the budget after supplemental.
No, they're in the budget. They're in the budget.
Okay, well, yeah, if they're in the budget, then it won't change.
Yeah.
That's just for the emergency management portion. So it's very minimal compared to the overall picture.
Yes.
Moving on to page 6, the 6-year current expense and other specific revenue streams comparisons. We are looking very well on our community development revenues. We're over last year by about 184,000. So that's great news. The detention and correction services are up by about 44,000. The current expense property taxes, again, down by about 84,000 over last year. And then the road diversion, 30,000 less. The county road property tax is up by 13.6 over last year, 13.6 thousand. Let's see. Oh, down by 13.6. The sales tax again is up by 129,000 over last year. The criminal justice tax entitlements are up by 47,000. The rural sales and use tax fund is up by 6,000. And the homelessness prevention filings are up by 54,000. The lodging tax is down by 58,000, which was expected. I think, that's the hardest hit item as of now. The REIT excise tax is actually up by 6,000 over last year, which is great news. So any questions on those things before we move on?
Just a point for everybody to know, there is a possibility that the next coming months, even though sales are brisk, that may have a little bit of an impact on the REIT funds coming in, because the inventory is so low. They're down below 1 month of inventory now, and that can have a very, very negative effect for selling properties if you don't have any to sell. On the sales tax, what month are we considering? Are we taking in in this number?
So this is through June. So we are less, and we're less than last year in May and June, but overall in 2020 we've collected more through June. So considering January through April, we collected more in those months, enough to offset the differences in May and June by 129,000 in total. So and typically we collect the majority of our property tax in the second half of the year. So I think we will still hit our $6 million budgeted figure, most likely.
That's good.
Yeah. Sorry.
But I still, this really can't be June yet, can it? Wouldn't this be May's number? Aren't we usually 2 months behind, or are we up on this?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question. Yeah, that is collections from April.
From April, okay.
Yes, we're 2 months behind.
So we still have at least one more month that we have to worry about the impact being on a larger scale.
Yeah, definitely, I would think so. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, so moving on, so that brings us to page 7, the the sales tax detail. We're down 6% in the month of June, which would be for April. Over last year, we had collected 489,000 in June for April, and this year we've collected 461,000. So any more questions on that before we move on?
No.
On page 8, we have the 6-year financial recap, and our current expense cash is at $13,394,000. Last year at this time, it was 11 million. So we're actually sitting very well cash-wise at this point in time. Our revenues, again, that we have collected this year are 18.8 million, and our expenditures are 17,645. So we've actually, over collected 1.24 million in revenues, over our expenditures. So that contributes to the increase in the cash over last year. So questions or comments on that before I move on?
None from me.
Okay. The special and other fund cash balances, we are sitting through June at 32,277,000, which is 3.3 million over last year, and about 7 million over the previous 5 years. So most everything is looking looking pretty well through June. Questions before we move on to motor pool? Okay, so motor pool, we had budgeted $658,000 for current expense and health funds, and so far we have spent $110,175 on non-capital items. I removed the capital because it's not included in that budgeted $658,000 number. So by removing the capital actuals, we're comparing apples to apples. So later on in the year, we will add the capital into the budget. So just wanted to explain why we had done that. So far through June, we have spent 17.24% of our budgeted amount for motor pool. And then in addition to that, we have $111,000 for capital items for the Sheriff Department. So questions or comments on that?
Yeah, Jen, just a quick question, not necessarily on the finance side of it, but maybe a question more for Frank. Have we received and put into service any of the vehicles yet, or are we still waiting on upfit, et cetera? What's the status?
So we have received some of the vehicles into the sheriff's, they're not PPVs, they're white fleet vehicles, so they're very limited upfit. There is a block of them that are sitting at the upfitter in Lakewood of about 4 or 5 vehicles that will be coming out shortly. And we're expecting within the next month or so a big block of vehicles for the current expense funds, the assessor's office and public health to be coming through. Is about 14 or 15 vehicles in early mid-September.
Okay, great. And then just as a quick follow-up to that, at what point will we have to start making decisions for next year fleet-wise?
We are there now, and we'll be coming forward with requests or at least an update in at our next briefing.
Great, thank you.
And Frank, do you know, has the upfits, how has COVID affected the folks that are doing our upfits?
As far as I know, it has not affected them. What it has affected are the manufacturers. So Ford was shut down for about 6 or so weeks. So that delayed all of our deliveries. But as far as I understand, there are no impacts to our upfitting timelines.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so that was all that I had on the financials. So with that, we can move on to the 2021 IT rates. I wanted to bring this forward to the commission because it is a large change from last year. So the proposed IT rate, and this would include reserve for tech, which is another reason that I wanted to bring it forward to you commissioners. In the budget instructions, we had asked everyone to budget $285,000 per FTE, and I want to ask permission from the board that we remove that out. And
$185.
Oh, $285. Yes, thank you. Not 1,000.
I almost fell over.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, when you present it like that, I mean, now it sounds like a deal. So
Right.
And at twice the price.
Yeah, I was going to say, can we charge the CARE Act at $285,000?
Okay, so the IT rate would include the 285 per FTE. So I just wanted to make that really clear that and ask that departments not budget that in the reserve for tech and include it in their IT rates instead. And a big difference in the IT rate this year. In the past, we have taken the computer inventory and distributed the total cost of the IT computer charges by the inventory. And I'm proposing that we do it instead by FTE, just to provide more consistency. And I believe it's more accurate that way, because each FTE touches the system, the network, whether directly or indirectly. They're all a user of the system that IT manages as a whole. And so anyway, I just wanted to, first of all, run that by you, and then the rate, run that by you as well. The total rate this year would be $960,243. And last year, the total between IT and the reserve for tech was about $751,000. So the difference being about $209,000. And the reason for that is the prior year, the total costs were eating into the fund balance. So the fund balance was basically supporting the IT and reserve for tech for 3 years. And now at the end of this year, that reserve is going to be pretty much gone.
So aside from preserving the fund balance there, what benefit to the departments does this create, if any?
Just it simplifies, each department wouldn't have to budget for that reserve for tech line like they have in the past. It's very, consolidated rates, look like this instead of the, I don't know how many lines it was broken out into with their reserve for tech.
The service, if I may add, the service level is about the same. I don't think there are more services or software, other than we have added a number of software items over the last couple of years, and they have contributed to the reduction in the reserve balance for IT. So it's time to start funding back or covering the reserve balance within IT.
And I just want to point out too that this $960,000 rate is not really building necessarily any reserve back. I mean, in 2019, we spent $900,000 between IT and reserve for tech. So considering that a lot of the maintenance contracts go up by 10% every year, the $960,000 basically covers costs.
So this is it's more accurate.
Yes. The rates over the last 3 years, over 18, 19, and 20, were not enough to cover the costs, and so we were eating away at that fund balance by in 2018 $178,000. In 2019 it was $223,000, and in 2020 I'm estimating it's probably going to be about 100,000 plus, maybe not much more. 102 is what I'm estimating, but with that we won't really have any reserve. And because IT is an enterprise, an internal service fund, it doesn't have, it's a standalone fund, so it doesn't have the cash available as a reserve like, other departments might, like current expense. If somebody goes over, then they just request an amendment, where IT, we would have to do a transfer into that fund of cash. And so it's a little bit more of a big deal to have it run out, I guess, if that makes sense.
It does.
So so questions or comments on the rate?
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Okay, well, with that then, I'll send it out to the departments. Okay, thank you.
That's fine, but I'd like to have a conversation with you about it
Okay,
this week as well.
okay,
Something's rattling around in my head and I want to think about it a little bit.
okay. But you're good with me sending it out for now?
For now.
Okay. Thank you.
So the next item is the MCRA project, the results of the RFP, Ross.
Good morning, commissioners. How are you guys?
Good.
Good. Well, in March of 2019, we received the award for the grant for the MCRA irrigation project. It was a 50-50 grant of $325,000. And in May, I brought to you the RFP to be put out to the landscape architects to apply for the contract grant. I did send that out as of June 6th and went out to all the landscape architects that are on MRSC. And as with that, there was a cutoff date of June 23rd, end of business, to send 3 hard copies of the proposal by end of business that day. As of June 23rd, I've received 1 complete proposal, and that was from Robert Droll, landscape architect. And then on July 1, I received the second one from a, let's see, it's called, the person's name is Marion Campos from Jones & Jones, but he only sent 1 electronically. He didn't send anything, paper copies of it. And he also sent it in a software that we could not get it to open. I sent him back a email stating that it actually closed on the 23rd, and that we also could not open his proposal, and it did not follow the criteria that was set out in the RFP. So we went ahead and opened up the proposals, or proposal, I should say. Gave it to Frank, we looked at it, and as you can see, I gave you the front page that came from Robert Droll, who he would use as far as the irrigation project designer and the construction folks. And we've worked with Robert Droll many times before on different projects. And on the second page of it, or that you have there, is Puget Sound Landscaping, which is the group that would be installing. And they gave us the estimate on the design for the irrigation for total sum of $566,538.89, which is under the actual grant dollars that we had, which would have been $650,000. Since we received this, we have been also notified that we need to have 3-phase electric out to MCRA, which right now it's at Johns Prairie Road. We'll have to bring that in. We believe that we should be able to cover that with the additional dollars that were not spent in this project proposal to cover that. That is something we did not anticipate, but we believe it should be covered. So what we're asking for is an acceptance of the proposal from Robert Dole, and the proposal also from Puget Sound Landscaping.
So this was already in the budget, wasn't it? Didn't we anticipate this?
This is REIT $2 that go with this. It's a RCO grant and then REIT $2 as a match.
And to answer your question, it was in the budget, yes.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
I'm good with it.
I'm good.
I'm good also.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I'll keep you guys updated on how it goes. We are anticipating the start actually is August 15th. Our guys are already out there pulling the old heads that come off of the irrigation system because those can be surplused or those can be resold or something done with those. They're still, and if we put in other irrigation somewhere, we might be able to use those old heads. So thank you.
Great.
Okay, commissioners, the next item is the CARES Act funding and the EDC contract. So for the distribution of the CARES Act funding, we had a request from PUD3 last week late for almost $2 million worth of assistance for them. I had a PDF of a document that was forwarded to you this morning that included those dollars. So what we have currently is on that list, a number of items that well exceed the $3.8 million of CARES funding that we have available. So what I'm hoping to get from the commissioners is a list back from each of you to prioritize what those items are that you would like to spend from that list, to include Building 10, to include laptops, to include whatever those items are, as well as prioritize those items. What's not included in that list is the additional $300,000 for public assistance for businesses that we have been talking about for the EDC. There's also a contract that we would enter into in that update for the EDC. The limitations for the $300,000 was to allow the EDC to assist businesses with 50 or less employees, full and or part-time. They must be in Mason County, and they must have incurred a business loss due to closure from the COVID pandemic. So if we can get a commitment for the $300,000, I can put on the action agenda for June 28th, the contract to transfer, to authorize the EDC to distribute those funds. And then I'm looking for a prioritization from the board on how each of you would like to spend the balance of those CARES fund dollars.
Frank, this is Kevin. I absolutely think we need to move forward with the $300,000. We've talked about that at length, I think, at this point, and I think I think we just need to move forward with that. So I'd like to see that get on the agenda for next week. As for the PUD3 requests, I'm interested at least in the Wi-Fi requests that they made for distance learning and other uses for Wi-Fi hotspots. $310,000, though, I'd like to see an itemized kind of plan from the PUD on what the costs are, people that it could serve or reach, so on and so forth. I would just like to see a little bit more detail in particular on that aspect of it. And the rest I'll review, and I'm happy to submit my priorities back to you.
Thank you.
Frank, as for me, I would agree with pretty much everything Kevin just said. I'd like to get that $300,000 out to the businesses ASAP, please. When it comes to the PUD's request. I appreciate it, but I would like to see more of a focus on where this stuff would go and what kind of say that we would have. Knowing our communities, again, I'd like to see that we actually get services where we know it's the most important for us if we're going to utilize funds that are coming to the county. And as for the rest of the funds, I really appreciate what we're doing when it comes to Building 10 and some of the other opportunities, but I'd like to see us focus on general fund monies so that we can make sure that we don't have any huge deficit at the end of this thing, and we don't have any type of layoffs or anything. I just would like to keep us laser beam focused on general fund more than anything else. We still have our REIT. We had the belief that we're going to be spending REIT monies on certain things. It is still coming in, and I expect that we could still use them for the same things that we had planned out. But again, general fund, please. But I'll get you a list.
I will. What I'll do is today focus that list on where the funding would come from, whether it's general fund or public health or a grant or wherever, so that you can discern which dollars are coming out of the general fund, which would be offset from the general fund.
Okay, I think we all agree that on the 300,000 for the EDC. Now, some of these should be covered by AOC, right? AOC funds?
Some of them can be. The JAV system can be covered by AOC.
Okay, what else are?
So
I know
some,
the courts are getting some monies. I'm not sure. I don't remember how much from AOC, but I'm wondering if we could use, how much of that money is available to help us with Building 10, because this will be specifically because of COVID that we're having to use Building 10 right now and funds to get that going. So I'd like to know where we're at on the AOC money and how much more they can help us with that cost for the Building 10.
I will talk to the courts to find out.
Okay, as far as PUD, I like the Wi-Fi hotspots as well, but it also looks like there's quite a few customers that need help with paying their bills. So if we could maybe get a breakdown also, so that we can take a look at that.
By district?
Honestly, I'm not concerned about district. I just want to make sure that we're helping our people.
I will do that. I'll get some. Yeah.
I want to chime in a little bit there. I appreciate that too, because I have been getting a lot of messages and conversations of people asking us, what opportunities are there for the regular people on this, and that may be a big one. So I hope we look into that a little bit further.
If we're going to go that route, then we also, I think, need to look at our own utility customers, sewer and water district customers, and get it through the county as well as PUD 1. I don't know, Commissioner Nolan, if you have any sense for.
No, actually, I agree with you without a doubt, because I do know that we have some that are in the sewer district that are definitely, struggling to and having issues. So I would like to consider that if possible. But also, I also know we have some that have not paid way before this, and I would like to make sure that we're not covering the ones that just didn't pay.
Yeah, and I'd also maybe even add Belfair Water District to that, which is, I'm not sure, Commissioner, if you have some insight to share with staff on who to contact there or whatever. But I think if we're going to look at that, and we just need to be mindful that this isn't a never-ending pot of money. Just kind of understand that there might be more need than we're able to meet with this. So, but I think it'd be helpful to get a sense from the other utilities in the county what they're seeing along those lines too.
I agree.
I don't think any of us really know how long this is going to last. So let's do what we can to help who we can.
Commissioner Trask, I'd also ask you, I remember some conversation about there being money that the state has held back from local municipalities. Any more talk about that getting released at some point here in the next couple of months, or is that still just sort of being held essentially in escrow by the state?
Well, if you could sense my frustration, you'd know the answer to that one. But we are so frustrated at the WASAC is working hard, but every county is millions of dollars. It's being held back, and we're all frustrated because the counties know what we need and where we need to spend it. So in short, no word yet, but we're still working on it, seeing if we can get something going.
I think one of my concerns remains, we've seen an uptick locally, but also, in other places of cases, as we move into the fall, I want to be able to have a little bit of money left in case, we move backwards. And so whatever you think we can do to help pull that money down from the state, we want to be able to support you in that work. I know you're working hard on it. But whatever you think we can do to be helpful, I think we'd both be there with you.
Okay. Oh, I really appreciate that. I know that there's a lot of commissioners that are very concerned. And we know that this is not going to go away soon. And with the October 31st deadline, it makes it even harder for all of us to look into the future and try to prepare, because the unknown, it's difficult, but we'll get there.
Do you know by any chance, ballpark, what our portion of the remaining CARES Act funds that are being held would be?
Frank, do you have that number? I know we had that number on the letter. I don't have the letter handy.
I will try to get it. I'll look up the letter.
It was
My
substantial.
recollection is we only received about half.
Yeah, I think every county received 46% of what they should have received.
Okay. All right. Well, that's ballpark enough for me. I appreciate that.
Okay. The next item we have then is the Mason County Jail Study. KMB had put an email out asking if we're ready to restart. This was before Thursday. So I'm just bringing that in front of the board for consideration.
Yeah, so my thought on that, and certainly want to hear the thought of the other two commissioners, is I would probably be more inclined to wait until after Labor Day at this point to restart, just because we don't know what the next several weeks is going to look like. We're obviously still waiting on additional guidance. I know there's a lot that we can do via Zoom, but I think it might, our efforts might be better served focusing on some of the other issues that we all have going on right now versus digging back into that. However, I would ask that KMB just give us a recap of where we are, where things were left when everything sort of hit the pause button, and then what is still outstanding, and what maybe a timeline would be from them if we were to re-engage after the Labor Day holiday.
I'll put that forward.
I would agree.
Okay. The last item was the Pandemic Exposure Control, Mitigation, and Recovery Plan policy. I would suggest that we postpone that conversation. The conversation or the meeting that the governor had last Thursday changed all of the rules and changed all of the requirements and recommendations, of which most of we don't know yet because they're unclear as to what the recommendations were. So until the dust settles and we know when and what we're required to do, I would recommend that we postpone that conversation.
I agree. I think that the goalposts, well, I used to say that they were a goalpost. Now they're a target that's very fuzzy, and it keeps changing. So for us to put in a policy that we're going to have to change maybe in 10 minutes, I think is kind of silly.
So I will put that on hold, and as we get some clarification, we'll bring it back once we know what the requirements are.
Thank you.
Then we have two, I'm sorry.
I just said that works for me.
Okay. We have 2 items for commissioner discussion. We had a request from the Port of Grapeview for a letter of support in their grant application to extend their boat launch area. I have a
Frank,
letter.
I think that just got canceled. There was an email just came out that they canceled. They're not going for that grant.
Oh, okay. Well, then we can withdraw the request. Next item was a conversation around redistricting. I just wanted to bring up to the commission the redistricting requirements that are going to come forward because of the results of the census, and because the census is being delayed, the time frame for the redistricting process will be much curtailed as opposed to what it has been in the past years, where we may have months to do this. We're going to end up having only a few months to go through and do the redistricting. But the purpose of this conversation today is to let the board know that in order to complete the redistricting process, we're going to need assistance from the GIS department as well as the auditor's office, about a half an FTE each. It's not going, so that would be a full person plus potentially some software. So just to bring to your attention, that's going to be about $100,000 budget line item that's going to need to be added to the Public Works budget as well as the auditor's budget.
I spoke with the auditor last week, and sounds like he's working on this, but I'm really glad that he reached out to Public Works for their GIS capabilities.
Yeah. Using technology rather than a staff of people is much easier and less expensive.
Right.
And that's all I had.
All right. Any questions or comments?
Commissioners, if I may, on that. I think for the GIS budget, we could tighten that. The half of an FTE is a conservative budget number. In speaking with Terry and Richard, I do not believe we will need to purchase any additional software, which was on the order of about $4,000. We can use the existing Esri extensions. So we're good there. And I think that we may be closer to a quarter of an FTE, if that. And the reason I say that is that technology has really improved, and we've got some awesome people who can rock this. So what took a substantially greater effort 10 years ago during the last redistricting can be accomplished more efficiently this year from our end. So just yay, technology makes life way easier for us. The things that could change that, commissioners, are, I think, possibly what you and the auditor's office may desire for being able to have more public hands-on during the redistricting process. So that may be a dollar that I'm not, or I am underestimating. So if we need some GIS folks to assist with helping the public understand or be able to play with redistricting maps, or we're underestimating the amount of time and interaction with commissioners and the auditor's office there, that may bump that up. So I guess the long and short of it, the half of an FTE should more than cover it. I'm thinking probably closer to a quarter to a third of an FTE on our end anyway.
Half of a half.
Yeah, there you go.
I think I'll, I don't believe Commissioner Nevin was here when we did redistricting the last time. I obviously wasn't, nor was Commissioner Trask. It might be helpful to have the auditor's office come in, maybe post primary election once things kind of settle down for them after that, and just kind of talk through what some of this might look like and things that the commission should be considering and that kind of thing. It happens so infrequently. I think it would be helpful for us to maybe get a better sense for the process, and the commission can contribute to it.
I would like that also. I was not here when it happened the last time, so I'd love to see and have a description of what's going to happen, what's going on.
I will talk to the auditor and have that scheduled as a briefing item shortly.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And that's all we have.
Great. Well, hey, I just had one quick item that came up over the weekend. Commissioners Netherland and Trask, you heard earlier this morning on our EOC meeting that I asked about the boat launch with the Skokomish tribe. Had a couple conversations with Ross about the state of the Union boat ramp, and he talked to Loretta, I believe, about or Al Eaton, I believe you talked to, about sort of the state of the Union boat ramp there, and so I wanted to put it to the commission, that I think it's time we look at some potential outside funding to improve that. It continues to get a lot of use, in particular, when the tribe closes access to their launch in Potlatch. And I know Loretta's on the phone here or on the Zoom as well. And so I kind of wanted to throw that out there and start a conversation about, do we look for RCO money to help with that? Is there something that we could do as an interim strategy, as we go out and do that? But I think it's used enough by our shellfish growers and people who, are recreational boaters, shrimpers, crabbers, et cetera, that it warrants potentially some upgrades. If not some upgrades, then certainly some just baseline improvement to make it more functional for folks who use it. So I just kind of want to throw that out there, see if the commission had any thoughts, see if Ross and Loretta had any additional thoughts as well.
Kevin, I have some, and the answer is yes and yes. You're right. We need to look at that. We need to look at the other granting opportunities as well, and we need to do it as soon as we can. This timing shows that it is still our responsibility. Although the tribes are doing a great job when they can, that has something to do with what's our job and what's not. So I'd like to move forward with that. Also, I want to remind you, we had talked about this before. This is a perfect example of knowing your district. When you said that this morning, I was happy, that you specifically were paying attention to that in your district. You know it. You definitely care about that. And with that, I wanted to bring back the idea that I had talked about before about setting up maybe a cycle where we take a certain amount of money each year and put it into each, to one district at a time, or each district as we set up our schedules for what can and cannot be done. If we did that, something like this would be a perfect project for that, where you could say, I believe this to be my most important right now for my community, and let's get this done.
Agreed.
Yep, agreed. I think that everything has a silver lining. This has brought to our attention the things that we do need to concentrate on. So I agree. Thanks, Kevin, for bringing that up.
Yeah. Does anyone know, is it free? Does the tribe charge to use that boat launch?
Yes.
They do. And then I know the Port of Allen has theirs, they charge, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I would imagine the state does as well, right?
Yes.
Toronto.
So no, don't they have a parking fee? I don't know that they charge the launch.
They have a launch and a parking fee, both.
Do they? They have both? Okay.
So this is the only free launch on the canal in our county, right?
There's one at the end of Lynch as well.
On the canal.
Off Arcadia.
On the canal, yeah.
The only free one on Hood Canal.
Oh, on Hood Canal, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
one of the things that I found out when I was talking to Al was that the only portion that Parks and Trails has is the actual ramp section itself. All of the rest of that falls underneath Road Department as a, I'm trying to think what he called it. It's like a right-of-way that's there. Because I had my guys go out and put some gravel in the potholes that were out there because they were, you could see pretty much to China from there. Maybe that's where the corona's coming from. I'm not sure. But anyway, we had them fill that out, and Al informed me that that was actually theirs, that they should be taking care of that. And he's looking at doing something and making a proposal to do something where it's either going to be asphalted or chip sealed again. Because he said it's been quite a while since they chip sealed that. So I'm going to look at the actual ramp itself and see what we can do for the ramp to help the concrete ramp that goes into the water, and see if there's something there that needs to be done. I know parking is always the biggest issue there.
Yeah.
They park all over the place.
Yeah.
Parking and just simple ingress and egress off the state highway there. It is tight.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
Ross,
Yes.
wasn't there a previous RCO application for improvements?
There was, and it got dropped because there was so many stipulations with it. If they wanted to put a floating dock out that way, and there was something to do with the shellfish and something else that really made it not doable.
Yeah, I was here for that, and we ran into a lot of problems on that one, Ross. It wasn't just that. We had Fish and Wildlife and DNR. Everybody was involved and not happy with
Right.
the process and what we wanted to do. It got killed. I would say more than anything else for lack of anybody's desire to move it forward. Where we have a commissioner that's there right now that wants to move forward with it. And is willing to stand up with it. I think that may be what needed just to make it something happen. Just my opinion. I'm not saying that's for sure what killed it, but I do know that there was not as much of a desire to make it happen as there appears to be right now.
Okay, doke.
So we'll get back to the board then with some options.
Yeah, thank you. And just, I guess, for my own kind of clarification, so given that it's, separated, there's basically a line of demarcation between what's public works right away and what is, under parks. Could an RCO grant cover both, or would an RCO grant just be on the ramp itself, and then we would have to figure something else out for the chip sealing or paving or whatever for the right of way part?
I am not sure on that one.
And I'm not sure either. We'd have to do some research.
Okay.
I thought it was both because I thought we had some improvements in that past grant we went for. I could be wrong, but I'm going over my memory, and I think we had some improvements to the ingress and egress there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's my understanding. I don't believe that it would matter one way or the other.
Okay, perfect. Well, I appreciate you making the effort to look into it, and appreciate the work Ross and Loretta have done on this already too. I much appreciate it. And I know people that use the ramp will appreciate it too.
All right, we're on it, Ross.
You got it. Okay.
Thank you, commissioners.
All right, do we have anything else for support services?
Yeah, if you don't mind having IT, I'm sitting here trying to go online here in the office, but it keeps going off and on. That's why I'm using my phone now. We can do something about this internet. Under the time of COVID, I think it's absolutely necessary something gets done.
They are working on a couple of different options.
Thank you.
Can we get one of those PUD hotspots?
On that, guys, what's interesting, something I would love to hear them talk about, and I don't know if we need to do it for the county level or if I should be doing it. 10 years ago, when I was a port commissioner, we had discussions with the PUD, who at the time could not be the end seller of the product, but that has changed. As a port, we had talked about putting out a type of a Wi-Fi hotspot that the locals, if we put it at the end of the dock, that the locals that were having issues with getting internet could tap into and pay a fee. I'd sure love to see them try to do that in some of our other areas where that may be possible. It may not be perfect, but for these poor people that are on CenturyLink, it would be a godsend.
God, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, not just CenturyLink. I think there's a lot of internet users that could use a lot of help right now. Now, I do know that there's money coming down from the federal government. We don't know how much. We talked about it at the Public Works Board meeting Thursday. The days kind of blend together, but we do know that there's money coming down from the federal government to help with broadband. We don't have, there's no amounts or there's no guarantees yet, but there's the rumor. All right, shall we move on to Therapeutic Courts?
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Hello, this is Renee. How are you guys this morning?
Hi, Renee. We're good.
Hi, Renee.
Yeah. So I have two things on the agenda that I'd like to address. One of them is, for those of you that aren't aware, the CJTA, which is the Criminal Justice Treatment Account Fund, which is state funded. We were giving a one-time for this year supplement for our next contract year, July 1st, 2020 through June 2021, an additional $42,750. We need to come up with a strategic plan on how we were going to spend that $42,000. It is funds that cannot be supplanted for something we're already doing with the program. So we did have a CJTA panel meeting, came up with some ideas, narrowed it down. Well, we didn't narrow it down. We got it down to 2. So now I just need approval by the county commissioners to submit this to the states. So what I'm doing is I attached it, hoping that we can get it approved to put on the action agenda for next week. The monies we'd like to spend for a peer support, peer mentor position, and then just an additional track to our drug court. Not a new court, just a track for young adults, 18 to 25, where we can target more of the challenges that hit the young adults versus our older adults in the program. Then item number 2 was just the annual contract. It is same contract we've had in the past, except that it does include the $42,750 for a total of $91,880 that we will be receiving this contract year.
I'm very supportive. It was fun being on the panel and listening to the discussion. So very supportive. I think it's a great idea.
Any other questions?
No questions for me. Appreciate it. I'm supportive.
Same.
Okay, then I will get it put on the action agenda for next week. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Renee.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
Whoever said that, yes, you can leave.
what's that?
Somebody was whispering, I can leave.
Oh. Let's move on. Community services.
One of the things with headphones on, I can actually hear everything.
That's awesome. All right. We're moving on to our community services briefing. In our Zoom room, we have Commissioner Netherland, Commissioner Schutte, Dave Windom, Lydia, Kell, and Todd Parker. All right, Dave.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start. We have 2 items from Todd. So Todd, go ahead and take the advisory board first, please.
Yeah, you bet. So we have 1 opening on the citizen panel for District 3, and we have 2 applications in. And so this is just to move forward with the commissioners interviewing these 2 applicants.
Sounds good to me.
Same here.
Good with me.
Okay, Todd, next item.
And is that, quick question, is that something that goes on the action agenda, or do you just, does Diane set up the interviews? I guess I'm
No,
not sure on the next step.
Going to hold the Diane to set up the interviews. It's after that it goes on the action agenda.
Okay, thank you. All right, then the next item is the CARES Act Emergency Solutions Grant. So this is a 2-part process. One is to accept it from the Department of Commerce. It's $165,874 from July 1st, 2020. So things can be backdated, or I mean, not backdated, but sorry, it's effective at July 1. And that through June 30th of 2022. So a 2-year grant. And then to subcontract with Crossroads Housing and Shelton Family Center. And so this money is predominantly, well, it can be used for a few things: street outreach, emergency shelter, prevention, that's to keep people in their homes, and rapid rehousing. So the main focus is on the rapid rehousing portion of this grant, and in the application, the focus was on survivors of domestic violence and youth. And that's why we've chosen to subcontract with the Shelton Family Center so they can work on that transitional aged youth 18 to 24, and then Crossroads for those older than 24 as far as the rapid rehousing. There's a little bit of money in the prevention category, but that's not the main focus, because just to give you a heads up, there is another eviction prevention grant that Commerce is working on that could be close to $500,000 for Mason County. So I'll give you more information as we get that, or closer to that. So with this, we'd retain about $11,000 for administration. Crossroads would be about $101,000, and Shelton Family Center would be $52,000. So we request that.
How is any of this servicing North Mason, please?
It serves the whole county, so everything must participate in coordinated entry, and then it's vulnerability. And so everybody that enters and connects that these agencies are working with, they're serving the entire county.
Todd, what I'm asking is, how are they servicing by providing somebody there to contact 30 minutes away, or 45, or even up to an hour out of Petunia? How are they, what are they doing? What is anybody here doing on this program to provide for that service in the North Mason area?
Well, we currently still have the coordinated entry is with North Mason Resources. And so North Mason Resources provides the intakes directly with individuals experience. That's through August 31st. So and on the youth side, they work with both the school districts and the homeless liaisons within the school districts. And they're after August 31st, then the coordinated entry will expand and do more outreach efforts. And again, that's part of this money is the street outreach and to focus on that. So if people need rental assistance or eviction prevention in North Mason, then again, it will go through coordinated entry and be assessed according to vulnerability and served accordingly.
Well, eventually here, I'd like to have a talk with somebody. This idea that keeps making North Mason almost, an island out there, something has to change here. And I'd like to talk to somebody, Todd or Dave or any of you, that we make some kind of change, please.
Commissioner, I'll swing by as soon as our meetings are over. I'll swing by your office. You're going to be there?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just real quick, Can you talk a little bit about the school district homeless liaisons? How does that work? Obviously, you know, it's the summer months. How does that work continue during times when school's out? You know, how have they kind of been adapting to COVID, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been intimately involved in that, but just, I mean, the part that I do know is like everybody else, just a lot of phone communication, you know, doing the best that they can to stay in contact, outreach, you know, and serve people through the means that we have available.
Okay, thanks.
Right. And then just for the information, and I guess record here is like, I mean, everything went out for agencies to put in proposals and that sort of thing. So we received proposals from Crossroads and Shelton Family Center. We did not receive any other proposals for this funding.
You didn't receive anything from like North Mason Resources?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
So do you have permission to move these to the action agenda?
Good with me.
Good with me.
Yes, but I may have other concerns when the time comes.
Okay. Moving along, we had a number of things that came up right at the end of last week. So if you're amenable, if we can move these into board discussion here. First of all, a Board of Health with the new OPMA continuations, and it's really unclear. We'd like to do Board of Health via Zoom only, and we'll get those packets out today or tomorrow. If there's any, I already talked to Peggy in Buskirk. She's good with it, so we'll be setting that up. At the end of the week, we came out with some burn restrictions, and just to be clear for everyone, the burn restrictions apply to outdoor burning, and so that's commercial and yard waste are restricted. Campfires inside of regular fire pits, and of course gas and propane barbecues are still good to go. So recreational fires inside of burn pits are good still. Our fuel moisture content dropped from about 20% in small fuels to 8% within just a couple of days. So as you see, the county really browned up over the last week. So I do have concerns about staffing with the emergency operations folks as firefighters get pulled to go other places. So we are working that through area command. Any questions on burn restrictions? So it was, we did follow DNR and went with the same timeline and the same restrictions that DNR had, so it's consistent across the county.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Dave, real quick, on a related burn issue, just kind of want to put back on the radar our burn permit reforms, and obviously trying to maybe get that moved into place for the fall. I know is kind of moot at the moment with the restrictions, but just want to make sure that doesn't fall too far off.
No, now is a good time to work on that. Yeah. Okay. And then staffing. I did have a conversation with Department of Health late last week, very late Friday afternoon, with the uptick in positive cases that we've seen, especially coming on the weekends. What happens is a lot of testing happens on Monday, Tuesday, right after the weekend, and those test results come in over the weekend, and it kind of swamps us on weekends. So what we've asked is for DOH to help support us with 2 staff people from their resources, whether it's the National Guard or from, I think they had Department of Licensing folks that have been trained to do case investigation. And we're working on that with DOH. We should have an answer later this week. We did talk about, as we get into August, after August 7th, the National Guard will probably be going back to their normal duties. And actually that goes through the end of August, but they have to take leave starting on the 7th. So DOH is exploring a contract that would take us through the rest of the COVID outbreak. And we would be a part of that contract. So we would be able to on-call asked for assistance from a third-party contractor. We've also explored using the same contractor that Clark County uses, which is Public Health International, and DOH is talking about how much funding we would need. We're talking about 6 to 8 people, in case this fall we have a big uptick in COVID-like illness, to include influenza A, B. It's going to be very hard to distinguish between those 3 things as we go into the fall, so we may need more staffing on hand. And I think that having contractual folks on call is probably the easiest way to go. There's no hiring process. It's just very simple for us. We just access those folks and it's done remotely. Any questions on that?
Nope, great plan.
Okay, so that'll help support public health downstairs. The last thing I have, Lydia, do you have anything else for the commissioners as far as public health goes before I switch over to planning and building?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. No, I actually don't have anything more to add other than every day it gets more swamping, and this weekend was a pretty heavy weekend with just working things out, not necessarily cases. We did have some cases, but it's every week it's getting more and more. So trying to keep the staff, sharing resources, and trying to keep everybody having enough time off to recover.
Right, you guys are doing such a great job. We appreciate you. Please let your nurses and everybody know how much we appreciate them.
Thank you.
Okay, and the last thing was I had submitted a couple weeks ago an adjustment plan, and that's kind of become a little more critical. Kel's online as well. At the end of last week, one of our permit techs announced that she's moving over to another county department, and she picked up a new position. So we have briefed before, and we're asking to fill 2 permit techs at the front counter. A couple goals there. One is just to refill what we have, and then the second one is an addition in order to tackle intakes and increase our capacity to get throughput on intakes. And then we're asking to open an admin clerical position announcement in the anticipation one of our clerical may move over to permit tech if selected for that position. So I'd like to be able to have an announcement ready to go as soon as possible in case those moves happen to take place. So we're looking for 2 permit techs and 1 admin clerical. You've seen the budgets. I put those together a couple weeks ago with the adjustment plan. Frank has those now, the whole adjustment plan. So he's looking at the whole thing holistically, public health and building planning. Our fees certainly support adding another person, and actually that will increase our revenue intake as well. So Kel, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I was wondering about if you want to talk about the planner position as well.
I hadn't at this point, but I was going to do that on August 3rd and bring the whole plan back.
Okay.
Okay, definitely know that we need to do something there. I'm getting calls frequently about the appointment times, and we definitely do not want to slow down our building in Mason County. We all know that we need houses, whether they're affordable or apartments or a simple residence. So whatever we can do, I support moving quickly and accomplishing, I guess, a speedy timeline.
I would agree with that. I also, bearing out that it actually pays for itself anyway, how all this is done. But I also want to point out, I went for a drive down a road that's nearby where I live, and it's not in Lakeland Village. It's out along the side. All the new buildings that are going up right there to keep our building department busy. As a matter of fact, I ran into, I think, 2 or 3 of our people from our building department doing different jobs that were there. There's literally like a dozen different homes, and they're not all the same builders. It's just booming, and they're having to do each part of that. So again, for this part, I would be very, very happy to move forward with it. And I hope you look forward to you bringing us the rest of the design for what you need in order for us to move forward on the 3rd.
Right, I don't see our building slowing down, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would concur. I think your revenue has remained consistent. The demand has been there. And as we know, the building and planning side of your department is always going to be at the mercy of kind of the economy and and development as it occurs in the county. And so I think in order for us to capture the market as it is right now, I think this is a good investment. But yeah, I definitely want to move forward on this and continue to press ahead on the larger scale, ideas that you brought forward.
Yeah. Okay, so just to be clear, we can fill the one position, which is just a refill. Do we need to bring the other one back next week for action agenda?
I thought it was you had the two going on this time, and then I see what you're saying. The other one for action agenda, but you're going to come back on the third with all the rest of the stuff that was needed to fulfill the plan.
Okay.
Okay, I'm with you.
All right, we will.
So,
go ahead.
So this is Kel. I just want to clarify for my work with Megan over in HR is, are we able to go out now as early as today to backfill the permit tech position that we're losing? And also for a clerical, in case we have a clerical person that moves over to the permit tech, and then also put on the action agenda for Tuesday, the 28th, to hire a new permit tech.
That's what I understood, as long because the other one's already
Okay.
in the budget and it's already set up. We're not asking for anything new by moving that. You're just
right.
I don't know, commissioners. I think we're good with that. What do the other commissioners think?
That's the way I understood it. So.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I can have those jobs posted as soon as we're ready.
Okay. And I see a benefit. I don't want to say it's the silver lining, I guess, for one person leaving your office. She's going over to IT, which is also going to be able to help with SmartGov because she has knowledge in that. So I think the moves that Mason County is moving or taking right now, I think is going to truly benefit the entire county.
Agreed.
Okay, we'll go move forward with that. With that, that's all I have, commissioners.
Great.
One other thing. And this just came out this morning, is because we just needed this too. And that's COVID and smoke. So that is the next thing is, as we go into fire season, I've skipped this, was we are looking at coordinating some messaging with DOH around COVID and smoke and what to do this summer. And I hope to have that out on the website here in the next day or two.
Yippee skippy.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid to ask, but I guess I will anyway. Commissioner Nyland, is Orca saying anything relative to that conversation?
Yes, they have, but at the same time, Dave has been aware of there's a few specific people in particular that are having issues with that. But they were having those issues before COVID ever came into being. Orca did send me something asking when we're going to have the burn ban, which we already did, and they did not have a meeting this month. They canceled this month's meeting, so there was no in between to tell them that we were getting it.
Okay. Thank you. That was a better answer than I was prepared for. So.
Okay.
Glad I could help.
All right, well, that's all I have.
Anyone have anything for Dave?
Dave, I want to thank you for your staff. I've had quite a few different things that were going on, and yes, just as Commissioner Kraft had mentioned, I've been getting a lot of those phone calls too, but I got to tell you, I sure appreciate how quick Kel and your staff get on this stuff and get it back to me, and I'm able to contact these people right away and let them know what's happening. But more than that, they're really getting things done. The public doesn't see it, I know, and I appreciate that, but things are expanding so quickly that there's a lot more going on than anybody knows. There's more going on than I know. Even I was shocked when I saw how many were going on that one dirt road I knew it was happening, but come on, this was crazy. This is right in the middle of an urban density expansion that's happening down a dirt road. So thank you for all you guys are doing.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys are all doing a great job. And I know when I call, you guys are always there. So there's always somebody to answer my questions. I appreciate that.
Oh, and let's not forget COVID, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you for your other half of the house and everything you're doing there.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you. Come on over and see me. We should be done soon.
All right. Do we need to take a break or shall we just move right into Public Works?
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah,
All right.
she's here. Let's do it. Knock it
All
out.
right. All right, let's move on into our Public Works briefing. Those on the Zoom room are Commissioner Netherland, Commissioner Schutte, myself, Frank, and Loretta. Looks like Dave is still with us too. All right, Loretta, take her away.
All right, good morning.
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 So on our calendar or our agenda items, we have a couple of requests to set hearings for road vacations. And Mike's ready to give you a quick highlight of the proposed vacation requests.
So road vacation 405, it's Union City Partners LLC, represented by Mr. David Pitt, has petitioned a vacation of Sharp Street that lies adjacent to and west of Block 92, lots 1 through 30 in the plat of Union Hood Canal Land and Improvement Company's addition to Union City. So the right-of-way is about 30 foot wide. It's 290 foot long. It has never been opened. It's fairly isolated. It does not provide access to other properties, so it won't landlock anybody. So what we're basically doing is requesting the board to approve and execute a resolution for setting a hearing date for consideration of vacation of this property.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Has this parcel already been vacated by operation of law?
I cannot confirm that at this moment, but it does say in the report that the claim is that it's vacated by law. It has to be, to do that, it's got to be platted within between March 1889 to 1904, and then the road has never been opened. Then it would be vacated by law. So I'll have to verify that.
Yeah, if you could please, because I'm not supportive of these things if it's not. You and I talked, and I hope you'll bring us a proposal on how we can get the people of Mason County their due their money for properties that the county does own, their due value into our bank accounts for the people. With this, also looking at it, I see an issue with the possibility of other people in the future may want a second access to their parcels. This is one that goes around the back of the plotting, and if they wanted to use it for a second access, wouldn't that impact that?
Yes, if they could get two. It just depends on how the ownership goes. At the Robin Hood Village, as I understand, the same stretch as Sharp was vacated about 3 years ago. And so that kind of puts a block on it to the south. And then it's also trapped to the north. So the only other access that adjoins it is to the west from a 90 degrees there. And we can continue to research this. This is not a final engineer's report by no means.
Yeah. Well, just know that if it has been found to vacate it by the operation of law, I am supportive of it. But I would also hope that you would put it together like we did some years ago, which says that not that we are vacating the land, but that the land was vacated and we have no claim, which is two different things. Because again, I'm not in favor of vacating without compensation for the county. But if it has already been vacated by operation of law, then all we're doing is just clearing up the title.
Yeah, we're just confirming that and verifying that through the process. So staff is looking into what other counties are doing, their process for vacations. And so they've got some information compiled that we just haven't sat down and went over with them. And so we'll get you a report on that just as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Quick question. Are these time sensitive in any way?
No, not, there was no request or no push to be, I mean, we do want to react to them. We want to report back to them if there's something to hold up or to move forward though.
Okay. Because I just along Commissioner Netherland's line there with, requesting some potential changes to how we approach this process and sort of getting a return on the public's, property there. At some point, I think it would be helpful for us to, kind of draw a line if we're going to go down that route of changing, what the county gets in return for some of these, that we don't, that we add a disclaimer to these processes so folks know that, there's a potential change in the works, or even saying, requests accepted, we're not going to accept any requests, until a certain point when we have this, new policy in place or once it's reviewed or whatever. I just think we need to be, as we're having that conversation internally, we need to be making sure that we're allowing applicants to know that there are these conversations, just so they get a fair shake at it, and that we don't see a mad rush on vacation requests because people know that there's going to be a potential fee involved or some sort of change to the process that has existed for a while.
I would like that. I think that would be great to give these people a heads up. It also gives us the ability to say, it is out there so that you do know there could be a compensation request.
Right, I have to agree too. Also looking at the resolution setting the time and place for the hearing, I see that it says August 26th, 1 p.m. in the commission chambers. You may want to change that or via Zoom or add, an option for Zoom. Yeah, just in case, because we don't know what the future holds.
Right.
Yes, this for this particular road vacation plat map here in the back of the packet, it does say 1889. I can't read where it's reduced in size. I can't read this the actual month, but that's what I'm assuming that they're going by. So that it would be within that
period.
That period of time frame where it would be vacated by law, if unconstructed.
Yes. Or, back then, though, the construction meant just it was a dirt road, just the use of it. The one thing about that particular area is people don't know, but that was a very, very, very vibrant area at one point for the logging industry. So there are possibilities, especially going around the outskirts of it, that there were roads that were being used at that time. Found that in Allen. So, but yeah, if not, though, I just want you to know, if you find it to be that you believe it is vacated by operational law, I am supportive of it. And remembering that it's not whether they've used it as a road since, but if they used it as a road during that time when it was plotted and when that law was passed to vacate it.
Correct.
That's the difference. Because there's a lot of roads that are even used now, then we'd have to go in to show that we have a desire to keep it open for the public use because it's been public, which is different because that road had already been vacated by action of law.
All right, commissioners, we will verify the vacation by operation of law and bring that forward for the action agenda on the 28th and make the modification about the Zoom attendance option.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is road vacation number 406. This is Neil and Julie Jones petition for vacation of the north half of Fur Street adjacent to Block 8, lots 21 through 28 in the plat of Grays Harbor and Union City Railroad addition to Union City. It's approximately 20 foot wide, 30 foot long, size abuts Mr. and Mrs. Jones' property. The vacation would add usable space to the property owner's lot and shut off unwanted access to the back of their property. So we did some analysis of this. Again, their claim is that it's by operation of the law, but I would have to verify that too. So, and we're requesting a hearing date set.
My issue would be the same with this one as it was with the other, although the pictures indicate this one is a heavily used road, so we need to pay a little extra care to that one.
Agreed. There is a route actually there at this point in time.
Yeah.
So we'll verify it and we'll get it on the next agenda if it's operational law.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, and we do have one other briefing item and a request to place an action item on the July 28th agenda. And Mike was taking a look at schedule and working back on a potential paving project for Agate Road. And to get the job out, advertised, awarded, and paving before bad weather. That's why we're asking to place this on the action item for the 28th. And that would be to create a CRP for Agate Road paving. And Mike can elaborate a little bit on that.
STP funds for 2020 were available, and they wanted us to obligate those funds. So we started the process on extending East Agate Road from the project that we performed this year already. So it starts at milepost 1.7, goes to milepost 3.1. That's about 1.4 miles. And so it doesn't get us all the way down to Crestview, but it gets us 2/3 of the way down. So what we did is went ahead and worked with local programs to get the original local agency agreement started. And at this point in time, it's approved, but it's not official until they've actually signed it. So we're waiting for that. In the meantime, we've actually went ahead and worked on the PS&E, the plans and specs and estimate. And so we're trying to get that ready to get that to local programs to be approved as soon as we get the PE information. So then to accelerate that, we've got to move right into requesting for construction funding. So what we're trying to do here is get this to where we'll advertise August 10th through August 28th. And so that would be the latest time we could advertise it and award. And then the construction would be done in September. We'd like to not push it off into October. So we're trying to shoot this as the best, latest fit that we can move into.
That's it. That is it.
All in a nutshell. We're basically trying to cram this project through. Local programs has agreed to help in doing so, and we're going to. So
sounds good to me.
Yep.
Right. Great.
Anything for Loretta or for Public Works?
I have two things. Go ahead.
Sorry. So just a quick couple of things, just looking for updates. One, Mike, if you could give us an update on how the culvert project went, and the other, both are going, I guess, with Deegan and Shelton Valley. And then the second thing is the Island Lake speed signs. Have we received those yet, or what's kind of the plan to roll those out when we do receive them? And yeah, that's all I can think of at the moment.
All right, Deegan Culvert. Deegan Culvert went great, and I want to congratulate the whole staff. And when I'm talking about, it's not just the road crew constructing it, but the permit techs, the right-of-way techs, the designers. It was everybody was involved with that project, and everybody deserves credit to see its completion. And the project out in the field went very smoothly. They did an outstanding job. So as of today, we've actually started Shelton Valley Culvert. So we're going to be excavating for today and tomorrow. And temporary, we have a schedule for the culvert to actually come in on Wednesday and Thursday. We've got snail crane out there scheduled for Wednesday and Thursday to actually set the concrete culvert. So it'll be it's kind of a tight timeline, but we're pretty confident we can accomplish it.
Great.
And as for the Island Lake, the portable speed signs, we have those. Our sign crew has asked where to start, and I told them exactly that. Island Lake Road would be a perfect place to start. So they should be showing up shortly, and they'll be starting to collect data for us too, traffic data.
Great.
So let us know if there's any other location. We got 6 of them, so we can either put 1 or 2 up, or we can saturate an area with all 6 and leave them there for a few weeks and see what kind of data we can collect. And I think it'll be helpful.
Yeah. I did think of the other thing that was on my mind. We had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, I guess at this point, about the speed signs for Hood Sport and the contract with DOT. How did that ultimately shake out, and are we still on track there?
We're still on track. I was asking staff this morning to verify whether I had to sign the agreement or whether the board was going to sign the agreement, and they have not got back to me. But I think it's just simple as I sign the agreement and get it back to DOT, and they'll move forward.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I have 2 things. Loretta, going up out of Belfair on Highway 3, going up to that traffic circle. We talked about it before, the differences in the speed limits, but I've got a 50-mile-per-hour sign just when you're leaving the heavily populated area of Belfair, going up that hill, creating a racetrack, only to be slowed down to 15 for the traffic circle. If we can get them to bring that down at least to our common speed limit throughout the urban growth area to 35, that would be greatly appreciated. And I think it would help to alleviate some of the problems that are happening, because it's the way people are reacting to it for the other people that are trying to follow the law that's creating the biggest issue.
Okay.
My next one is I'd like a little update on what's happening on the freight corridor and the access points and your meeting. I think his name was Diaz.
We are moving out to request for qualifications for the log yard connection. We'll be sending that out here shortly to get some consultants on board, see who can give us a design process. And so at that point, we're still waiting on WashDOT to, I don't know if they've actually confirmed the intersection location.
They have.
They have confirmed that. So at that point, we'll use that information to come up with a design for log yard road.
I guess my greatest concern is something I had shared with Loretta a while back. I know they're trying to bypass us and not include that into their design and build it for our entrance in those two locations. And I'd like to know what's happening with Diaz and local, the local aspect of WashDOT to get that included and make sure that that's done.
We need to work with WashDOT local programs to put together a contract that includes the intersection as part of their design.
A contract, that's an interesting term. What does that entail? What are we talking about there?
Basically an agreement that either we need to determine whether we're doing the design work. We believe it's more cost effective for DOT to do the design, but we would enter into an agreement with them to prepare and complete that design for those intersections.
Okay. And as I said before, my biggest concern is that they build it for us to be able to connect into them, not us coming afterwards. So please keep me up on that as you're having those discussions. And if you need us to weigh in a little heavier, we need to, because this could be a cost increase for us in the future that would devastate us.
Right.
That's all I have.
And I have nothing at this point.
All right. Commissioner Trask, last week, I believe it was last week, we're asking about the status of the rail crossing grant application. DOT will not be awarding until the fall. And so I did reach out to the company that prepared the grant application to see if they'd heard anything for making site visits, and all's been quiet on that end. So we'll expect to hear something here in another couple months or so when the awards are made.
All right, I appreciate that. I see people crossing over the railroad tracks all the time, and depending on the height of your vehicle, you could be in trouble.
Exactly. Yes.
Hey, Loretta, real quick, just popped into my head. We had talked earlier this year, or maybe even late last year, about the potential for Tiger and build grants for some of our projects.
Yes.
When should we start thinking about that again? Just if you don't have an answer now, that's fine. If you need to come back, at our next briefing, that's fine. But just sort of, what should we be considering, and how do we kind of get those conversations started?
Yes, and that is timely because that's a significant effort to be made. I think the timing has to do with talking with our local partners up north, potentially. I think our greatest opportunity would be constructing up in the Belfair area for the intermodal freight location. Mm-hmm. And so we have had some conversations about what that future route planning might look like, and we just need to continue scoping that. But yes, we don't want to lose sight of that opportunity.
What's the typical cycle on those in terms of, putting in for, applying and potential evaluation, receiving funds? How does that usually work?
I believe it's every biennium, Commissioner. And I can shoot you an email with the basics of the Tiger.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, because I don't want to misspeak and make things up right now.
Well, that makes sense.
And so just out of curiosity, are we looking ahead to the rainy season and how the valley floods every year? And have we started working on maybe an agreement or anything with Green Diamond?
We have not recently. It's been probably at least a couple months, Commissioner, since we visited with Green Diamond regarding that agreement. And yes, we need to dust that off. I actually wanted to go out to the valley with Mike to see if there's anything we can do, just some small interim measures as well that can give us some additional, an additional day or two, if you will,
Right.
for access in it.
They often watch the flood watch. But
Yes.
what about maybe cameras or I don't know, something that might help them I guess line of sight so that they know what's coming their way before it comes their way.
Well,
can I chime in real quick on the camera thing?
What's that?
Can I chime in real quick on the camera thing?
Oh yeah.
So this is something that I've been asked about a number of times since I came into office. I think it's well intentioned, but I think there are some legitimate concerns with liability for us putting cameras out and people relying upon that to cross a roadway that's flooded. It doesn't really give you a ton of accurate information on the sort of the road condition underneath the water. I just think it would create a potential hazard that, people cross that road when it's flooded anyway, but they're doing it on their own accord against, they're going around road closed signs, they're going around, barriers that we have put up. And I think the cameras would be used to make decisions not based on all of the information that would be helpful to cross a flooded roadway. And I think it would encourage more crossings and that would potentially increase danger. And I've heard that from a lot of folks, in particular from Olympic Mountain Ice Cream, as they try to get their deliveries out and everything. But I just have a ton of concern about that. And so just wanted to let you know that that's something that's been out there and let you know where I kind of stand on it, but certainly interested in hearing Loretta.
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm thinking about are better delineators on the shoulders and perhaps something to assist with gauging depth of water.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. Last year concerns me just because people they did go around the barriers, which
right.
is not recommended.
Right.
And so to find ways to help them avoid accidents would be helpful, I think, to them.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of giving them a better idea of the height and what's going on with that. I think that's important. And as for the cameras, that is not my district, and I try to always support the commissioner's knowledge of their own personal district. So if it turns out that Commissioner Schutte doesn't think it's appropriate for there, then I would like us to support that.
Oh, I would too. Yeah, definitely follow his lead.
Yeah.
And the Conservation District did prepare an application again for this last round for the matching funds necessary for the elevation of the road. So that's in the hopper. It's my understanding that it is not ranked high at this point, so we still may be on the hunt for funds to supplement the FLAP application that we received the FLAP funds.
That would be good. Last year I toured that area, and it was a lot of fun. We went with SWAT in the Conservation District and the parks and it was the tribe, and it was very, very informative. I really enjoyed it and appreciated their time.
Good. Thank you, Commissioner. That's great to hear. Lots of knowledgeable, great teamwork. working to bring improvements to the valley for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anything else?
Commissioner, I just have one comment on, I should have done it at the time when we were talking about our meeting schedule. I just wanted to remind the public, because of the concerns they have, this is our tentative schedule. It's set up this way, but Diane has the ability to call us and add another briefing or meeting if it is deemed needed or required or anything to make things happen. So although this is our structure, there's a possibility that meetings could happen in between as they become needed.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, I do have one other thing. We do have an opening on the Pack Mountain board. Saddle Shellfish they're not on there anymore, so we do need someone. And if you guys know anyone that might have an interest in joining that, I'll also talk to the EDC and see if there's any possibilities there.
Thank you.
Specifically for shellfish, or?
No, we just need a driver,
Okay.
commercial.
Right on. Great.
All right, do we have anything else?
Nope, I'm down to 5% power. So, Madam Chair, I move we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Well, let's adjourn before Randy loses his power.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.